Hey there, Christy with Automation on a Mission, and we are back talking about calendars and appointments and all those kinds of good things. So in one of our previous videos, we talked about setting up integrations, and part of that integration training video walked through how to connect your personal calendars, as in like your personal business calendars, with Automation on a Mission. So prior to being able to successfully create booking links that you can share with your prospects, your clients, the public, etc., you do need to make sure that you have a calendar that's connected. So let's just pop over to our profile settings. So I'm going to click on settings, and I'm going to click on my profile, and we want to make sure that you have a section here that shows at least one calendar that's connected to your specific profile. And then underneath that, you want to find what calendar is your primary calendar, which means that when someone books an appointment on that primary calendar, this is the calendar it's going to show up on. And then if you have any calendars that you want to check for conflicts, like let's say, for example, you have multiple calendars that you use to manage different parts of your life, both personal, professional, etc., then you can have not only your primary calendar being used to check for conflicts, but also other calendars as well. So when I look at my own settings, my personal calendars, my personal email addresses, I use also for some personal, appointments and things like that. So I always check that in case, maybe a doctor's appointment was booked during business hours or something along those lines. So this is how you can check for conflicts. This is your personal profile page is where you check to make sure that your calendar settings are connected. And then the last thing is, if you host meetings online and you want your calendar to be connected and say that the meeting location is, for example, Zoom, you're going to want to make sure that under your calendar settings that you are also connected to a Zoom account. Or a Teams account, or whatever it is that you're using for video conferencing. So you want to show that there's something connected there. So now that I've gotten that part squared away, I'm going to click on the Go Back button, and I'm going to click on the calendars in my app. Now, the reason I'm showing you the calendar piece first before we go into booking links is because I want you to see that when you have your calendar connected, you're able to actually look at your day without having to go into your Google Calendar or Outlook or whatever other tool you use, iCal, for example, to manage your day. You can actually just click on calendars and see what's going on. And to take that one step further, if you want to see what your day looks like stacked up against somebody else on your team, you're also able to see, I want to see when do myself and Amber have openings. Maybe I'm trying to manually, or verbally over the phone with somebody, try and find a time that works for both myself and Amber, for example. Okay, so Thursday at 1 p.m. Mountain Time, that seems to work best for both of us. Okay, let's make an appointment, that sort of thing. So that's just sort of an example of something that I wanted to show before we dive into creating individual booking links. So now if I click on my calendar settings here, I have the ability to create as many calendars as I want. And those calendars can come in all different shapes and sizes. So if I click on this Create a Calendar button right here, and now I will say this feels like the most logical thing, but I would encourage you to avoid this whenever possible, simply because it doesn't have a lot of dynamic functionality, and so it has led to some confusion for some of our clients. I really do, if you're looking to, whether it's the potential that you might add more than one person to the booking link, which I'll talk about in just a second, or things like meeting locations and things like that, a round robin is certainly the best way to go. But notice that you can do things like webinars, events where you manage the number of people that might be attending, collective booking where it might be that they're, again, they're pulling from multiple calendars. So let me explain the difference between these two. So let's say, for example, I'm creating an appointment that is somebody's going to book, but they're going to book with myself and Amber at the same time. So it's going to look at my calendar and Amber's calendar at the same time. Versus a round robin could be just my calendar. It could be my calendar or Amber's calendar, and then I get to decide what's the ratio at which it offers up my calendar or Amber's calendar. And this is typically very helpful in sales calls, onboarding, where you're trying to share the responsibility, share the burden, share the wealth. In sales, a lot of times it's, a rotation where everybody gets a turn, or maybe your head salesperson gets a 2-to-1 ratio compared to your like sales associates, that sort of thing. So you get to decide what that ratio might look like. But I'm going to click on that round robin, and I'm just going to call this my sample calendar. and I'm going to choose the team members that I want. And what I'm saying is, whose calendar are we using? So if I want this to be something like that round robin where it's choosing mine and Amber's, I can choose both of our calendars. But for the sake of simplicity right now, I'm just going to choose my own. And then I'm going to say the meeting is 30 minutes, and I want the days and times to be, Monday through Friday, 8 to 5. So now I'm going to click confirm, and now it's not going to like that because I didn't put I put spaces in there and stuff. So let's see, my calendar is cool. I'm trying to find a unique link that's not going to cause any issues under our system. All right, so here's my sample calendar. I just want to go back into our settings because once you create the initial layer, it tends to be a little bit easier to then go back and customize some of your settings. So I want to, there's my team member, my meeting priority. Now this part really doesn't matter nearly as much to be about as, it doesn't matter nearly as much as, when it's just me creating things as maybe, the meeting location, for example. So I'm going to choose Zoom as my location. If you want to pick a color, you can totally do that. And then I'm going to go into availability. And remember how when we were in that quick add section, it essentially gave me the ability to create universal days and times. But here I want to customize them. So maybe I want to take Friday off, and maybe I only want to do until 2 p.m. on Thursdays and also 2 p.m. on Mondays. Now I've customized the availability for specific days. I also have the ability to say only offer this on specific dates if that's something that was important to me. Something that we have that's a reasonably new feature is even if, let's say for example, this particular calendar that it's looking at is really open, you don't have a lot going on, but you want to create the illusion that you have some busyness in your schedule to make it a little bit harder for people to book, you can create this look busy, and it makes it so that there are fewer appointments available. You can create recurring meetings as a part of your system. How often does the meeting repeat? What's the schedule and the format? Again, the meeting is 30 minutes. And then the interval is also 30 minutes. So what that means is if your appointment is, or if you want to give availability at 30-minute intervals, it means that they look at a calendar where it's a totally open day and it's 9 o'clock, 9:30, 10 o'clock, 10:30. Whereas if we said it was 15-minute intervals, it would be 9 o'clock, 9:15, 9:30, 9:45. Duration is how long is the meeting, scheduling notice. If I wanted to prevent somebody from booking on the same day, I might say I need a minimum scheduling notice of a day. And I can also say I don't want you to book out any further than 60 days. So you can book this month and next month, but you can't book into, January of 2027 because that just feels cruel. If you wanted to limit the total number of appointments on your calendar in a day, and for the longest time, I didn't really think that was all that important, but lately I've had so many appointments on my calendar, even if they're just 30-minute appointments, it feels really disruptive. It's hard to get stuff done. So this isn't counting the number of appointments using this particular booking link, it's counting the total number of appointments on your calendar for that day. So if you say 3 appointments and you put in 3 appointments on your calendar, that day is not going to show up as available anymore. And then maximum number of bookings per slot is literally that. How many people can book during this time? So if it's you and you can't split yourself, which normal people cannot, you're gonna leave that as 1. But you do have some other functionality where it's maybe you're only using 1 calendar, but maybe there's different people that are rotating in and out, that sort of thing. And then pre and post buffer time is, I would like to leave time for a bathroom break, or I need to stretch my legs between meetings, so nobody can book an appointment with me 50, so if I have a meeting that's starting at 10 o'clock and I say there's a 15-minute buffer, you can't book an appointment that's going to run all the way up to my 10 o'clock appointment. It needs to give me a 15-minute block of time. So that's what those pieces are. Our appointments allow you to gate them behind a payment. So if you are saying, this appointment requires somebody pay, you can actually make this a part of your booking process, which means then you don't have to go back and chase them for that payment. Notifications and additional options can be super helpful, but I also find that I would prefer to make this branded and custom by using the automation tool. But if you just want to send a single email that says, this is your appointment, then you can, leave your, send your appointment notification through this system. And then this information here is what shows up in the meeting notes. So if you wanted to put specific information in there, like, responses to their intake form, you're welcome to do that as well. Oh, I forgot to mention that actually. So up here at the top where it says forms, you are able to pick your own custom form. So let's say, for example, you are creating an intake appointment calendar and you want them to fill out name, email, goals, what are we talking about, what are your challenges, that sort of thing, and it's specifically for that appointment. You can create that form and then assign that form to this particular calendar. So then going back to our notifications, what I was trying to say there was, let's say you ask them for all that information and you want them and yourself to have that information in the meeting reminder, you can put those fields inside your meeting notes right here. And then our last step here is, it's always nice to keep things on brand. So you can put your brand colors in here, and this will change things like the numbers and the buttons and the bubbles, so that everything matches your color scheme for your specific brand. So once you have that done, you're then able to go back to your sample calendar, and I can grab my meeting link, and I have my calendar ready to rock and roll. And it's going to be based on whatever those settings are that I created. And then people can go and book that accordingly. So if I click on this link here, because I didn't customize that form, it's just a standard calendar form. If I want to customize what form and what sort of questions I ask, I get to do those pieces as well. And that is essentially calendars and appointments in a nutshell. As always, let us know if you have any questions and how we can help. Thanks so much.